Well, one of the most influential and controversial diplomats, Henry Kissinger, died yesterday at the remarkable age of 100. He served as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor for Presidents Nixon and Ford, but is said to have advised 12 presidents in all. His credits include diplomacy during the Cold War era. He was the architect who opened the U.S. and China's relationship and was involved in an arms control deal with the Soviet Union. He shared a Nobel Peace Prize for talks aiming to end the Vietnam War. But he was criticized for his role in carpet bombing Cambodia during that war, which killed thousands of civilians. Kissinger was a German-born Jewish refugee whose family settled in New York. He became a naturalized citizen and served in the U.S. Army as a German interpreter. Quite a resume. Joining us now to talk more about his incredible legacy is Thomas Schwartz, professor of history and author of Henry Kissinger, An American Power, a political biography. Certainly a fascinating read. Kissinger has had his fans and his adversaries, as you know, Thomas, and you outline both sides in your book. I'm curious, what do you see as his enduring legacy?
Well, I think in specific terms, I think one of his most enduring legacies is in the Middle East. That's where he was able to construct a type of structure for peace. It's obviously, we know that it hasn't completely brought peace to the Middle East, but it lessened the degree of interstate war there and particularly by getting peace between Egypt and Israel. In the larger sense, of course, the opening to China is also a part of his legacy. It's more controversial now because of China's rise and the perception that China is a serious threat to the United States. But at the time, it was an important move in the Cold War in playing off China against the Soviet Union. And it was an effective way to reinstate a certain amount of creativity to American diplomacy at the time. I think in the broadest sense of the word, I think Kissinger stands for a type of diplomacy and negotiation that is still something that Americans strive for, namely the idea that most international conflicts can be settled by serious negotiation, and that was certainly Kissinger's view.
So your book is incredibly researched and detailed. You refer to Kissinger as a master strategist, both perceived as good and evil, depending on who you ask. So based on your research, are there areas where you believe he was misunderstood?
Yes, I think on some issues, for example, the Cambodian issue that you mentioned, I think it's often brought up as though the bombing of Cambodia was something simply done to kill Cambodians. It was not. It was a part of the war fighting in Vietnam. The North Vietnamese had thousands and thousands of troops in Cambodia who were attacking American soldiers. And so the carpet bombing of Cambodia, or the bombing of Cambodia, was, of course, part of that war effort. I think Kissinger's larger sense, particularly the way he dealt with authoritarian regimes, did sometimes, I think, was criticized that he had no moral compass. But I think he recognized that the United States could not dictate or change regimes around the world, and that you had to live to a certain extent with what was there, and that's one of the reasons why he continued to deal with China and even met with Putin before the invasion of Ukraine.
Well, he certainly did have that cold appeal to so many. It's interesting to hear you highlight that. So why did you choose Kissinger to research and write about? I'm curious, what was your draw to him and some of your biggest takeaways?
Well, the actual draw was I was asked to designate a person for a series that would use a biography to tell American history. And particularly, they wanted a biography of someone who's would tell the story of American foreign relations. And to me, Kissinger really encompassed that. He's had an extraordinarily long public career, more than 60 years. And in many respects, his life story is the story of American power in the 20th century and beyond. And so that was what drew me to it. I think what I came away with, some of the surprises I came away with, was particularly his still connection to Germany. Yes, he was a very patriotic American and very much believed in the United States. But unlike many German Jews, he actually went back to Germany relatively shortly after the war. I mean, he was in the American army occupying Germany, but then he went back as a researcher, and he put a particular emphasis on trying to nurture and strengthen German democracy, and remained connected, very strongly connected to Germany through the rest of his life.
Well, he definitely had a significant impact on U.S. foreign policy. Thomas Schwartz, thank you so much for your insight and for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the program.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.